Hey. That song's far. Like, no matter what, it never gets old. Like, it never gets.
Days are shorter, nights are colder. Feeling like life is over. These snakes strike like a cobra. The world's hot, my son got knocked. Evidently, it's elementary.
It doesn't get old. You're so right. I hear this song for our show. I hear this song on my runs because I listen to an old hip hop station. It just never gets old.
It's on every playlist.
It's so inspiring.
Honestly, our grandkids, like I definitely don't feel my grandkid will be listening because it's just like if I ruled the world, like it's just like he cemented himself in history with this song.
Yeah.
So happy Saturday, ladies.
Happy Saturday, Shiva. How is everything?
Listen, these COVID numbers.
You know what?
It's like one step forward,
Honestly,
10,000 steps back.
We are back in March, which
Yes.
is very discouraging because it's already, we're going into that season, the flu season. And it's very, you got to work hard. It's work to stay healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Amen, hallelujah to that.
Okay. It is work to stay healthy between the months of October to March of next year. Yeah. It's hard.
It's hard.
So the idea that we still have people out here going to the beach, rolling up into sand with everybody.
Rolling the deep.
With 300 people, and they don't plan on changing. Like,
they don't care.
I would eventually like to go outside.
Well, that's the thing. You think that everyone would be on the same page, but I guess they can't wait. They're just like, well, I don't care. Because they're still in their conspiracy mind, because the whole world is in on it, apparently. And they're just going outside in their thong and in their booty shorts and in their drawers, gone outside, roll up and stand, roll up and everywhere, barbecuing, high-fiving, no mask, no nothing. And making it a lot harder for us.
And I think what's crazy now is that the numbers, especially in Toronto, are now skewed to 40 and younger. Right? So when this was first out, it was very much older people. And I think there was this, thing of, oh, well, it's just older people, so forth and so on. But the numbers now, as they're showing it, is people that are 40 and younger. And it could be that more of us are getting tested. Like I'm going to go get tested next week with my daughter because I was like, I'm at the point where I'm wrapping down even going out. Like it's my daughter's birthday weekend, so I have to, go do something tomorrow. But beyond tomorrow, like everything I can conduct can be done over Zoom, and we have our show like this. Yeah. But it's one of those things now. It's like I think people are getting tested, but you're also right. We look at, say, Western University and Trent University and all these universities that these young kids are deciding, oh, I don't give a crap. I'm just going to party it up and call it a day.
They don't care.
And again, if we were worried about the common flu, I'd be like, okay, whatever. Take 3 days off, feel better. But we're talking about a sickness where we don't really know how it will affect you. It seems to affect everyone in a different way.
Very much so.
Unfortunately, being sick for a month and losing the ability to breathe on your own does not sound fun to me.
It isn't fun.
Yeah, depending on a ventilator is not a good idea.
Not fun. So here's the thing. I'm convinced I had COVID in last December. Right. And Garcia, you remembered. I called you in January.
Yes.
And I was still sick in January.
Yeah. And your
voice was gone. I couldn't breathe. So, and that was and I am in the 98th percentile of being healthy. And I'm not saying that to say that. I was actually tested for insurance reason. And they said, you are the 98th percentile of like healthy people, or 99 or whatever it was, right? Like I am top when it comes to healthy. I eat well, I exercise 7 days a week. You know what I'm saying? Like, take care of ourselves, meditate, do all those things to make sure that my body's good, right? Eat the right things. Like I do all of that. And if my body that is so healthy and so pristine, I slept on my couch for 3 weeks sitting up. I sat up because the moment I slid, I thought, oh my God, I'm good. I actually was so scared. I thought I'm going to die in my sleep. Yeah. My daughter's not going to know because she's going to wake up in the morning because I slid down. So I had propped up pillows, like 3 pillows behind me, and I slept up for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I feel for people who go through it and their bodies just don't have the ability to fight it. And it's just like one of those things, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it just for humanity as a whole.
Oh my goodness.
And that's the plea that I've been making. I've been saying to people, let's all be compassionate human beings. Let's all think about each other. Think about, be selfish and even think about, you know, just you and your man, or you and, you know, your kids.
And your family,
you know,
your friends.
Yeah,
like,
but, you know, let's just be, because the thing is that if we all work together, we can contain, and because we did it. We saw the numbers dwindle down.
Yeah.
Right.
2 days where we didn't even have any cases.
Yep.
And now here we are with 400 cases coming.
Over 400 cases.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. Like there's just, and again, more people are getting tested, and I completely get it. And kids are back to school and all these different things are happening. And I think people are winding down for summer. So they're trying to wrap everything in, you know, so before they have to go back inside. But unfortunately, you know, those rolls in the beach and in the sand and all of those different things have caused the numbers to skyrocket. And, you know, the economy is about to go, I don't even want to think about it, right? Like as entrepreneurs trying to survive through, like, we became entrepreneurs in 2020, and 2020 has been a shit show of a year.
It's
so
stopping us left, right, and center.
Yeah.
We just keep that warrior spirit.
Yeah.
So this does bring us to our topic for today, which is the Black divide. And I think that it's really good, you know, Karcia mentioned this idea of, you know, us mentioning the idea of really trying to do stuff together, right? Like if it's not for yourself, what about, you know, fellow humans? And I think this idea of, you know, we called it the Black divide because there's divisions in, you know, class, culture, all of these different things. So we could have, you know, named all of them, but I think within the Black community, there's so much divisiveness or divisiveness, however you choose to pronounce it, that sometimes there is a concern whether or not as a collective we can move our agenda forward. And not that we have one whole agenda as a Black race, but I think the agenda of equality and equity and inclusion, I think, is on most of our minds. However, with the divisiveness, again, divisiveness that is within the community, there is that question, how can we get to the other side, right? And I think, you know, in our promo video, you know, Rihanna said it best, you know, we just gave kind of a little bit of a clip, but we can't do this alone. No. In order for us to get to where we truly want to be, that we actually have to do this together. And, you know, W.E. Du Bois had written something, this was like in the 1800s, about the idea that, I think it was something to the premise of it required 10% of our community. He spoke specifically about the African-American community, but 10%, and he was speaking specifically to Black men, but 10% were required to be able to bring up the rest, right? If 10% made it, it was their obligation to bring up the rest. But then, of course, we found that even in the time of, you know, Martin Luther, that wasn't happening. There was this, you know, I've made it, too bad for you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yep.
I mean, you know what? Immediately, so, you know, when you said that, I thought about, you know, and a movie that really displayed the issue of divide within the Black community is actually, you know, the Black Panther, you know, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. The movie did an excellent job at showing us the reality of what happens when a Black person is successful. Because we're not used to it, I'm going to reference our good friend, Kenya Barris, because of slavery.
Well, it's fact.
Slavery.
You know,
it's fact.
you know, we were used to having nothing.
Yeah.
So when you finally do get that something, whether it be a role in a super amazing company, whether it be, you know, a business opportunity, whether it be even like things like your relationship is doing better, you're getting married, like things like these, you know, there tends to be a thing like, you are not gonna ruin this for me, my sister. So I am not helping you. I am not giving you anyone's email. I am not going to offer my help or advice because this is for me and it's mine. You know, as, you know, King T'Challa said to, you know, his, I forget his name now, Lord. Haven't seen the movie in too long. You know, he says that he's the king and he's not giving up. Now, when you're watching the movie as, you know, when all my white friends saw it, they were like, wow, this movie's so great. And I was like, but you missed it because you don't know it. But that's an actual problem in our community.
Yep.
We don't like to share.
Mm-hmm.
We're selfish.
We are selfish, and it's all because of the fact that we aren't used to having anything. So when we do have it, we hold on to it, and you're going to have to pry it from our dead, cold, stiff, rigor mortis hands before we give it up. And I think that's a theme. You see it every day. I mean, I believe that even the idea of discounting people's Blackness is a part of that problem as well, right? Like we look at someone could say, look at us in a different way and say, oh, well, you aren't Black enough because, I don't know, your skin tone is maybe a bit lighter than mine. Your hair isn't kinky enough. Oh, like even the idea of 3C versus 4C. I'm like, this is ridiculousness. We need to stop. Like all of these little things, it's ways for all of us to stay in our community and fight it out. And what it does, it causes this issue of, and it's an issue that's lasted forever, you know, even Caribbean versus African. You know what I mean? Like, these are all real problems that we have because of slavery.
Yeah, and there's all distractions.
I call it
Because, you know,
distractions
while
too.
we could be helping each other and building our legacies as a team, we're too busy, like you said, you know, fighting over whose hair is silkier, who's, you know, Africa versus Jamaica, Haiti versus Barbados, like, you know what I mean? And that's the sad part too, because I mean, I can't speak for any other race because I'm Black, but I highly doubt that the Caucasians sit there and say, well,
the Irish aren't here fighting the Scottish.
I don't see them fighting right now anyway. I don't see,
not now.
You know, a Canadian white man versus, you know, going head to head with an American Italian or Italian. They're all the same. And if they go to one another for advice, they happily share it. But for some reason, when it comes to us, it's just this mentality, like you were saying, where it's like, oh, no, I don't want to help you. You can't get higher than me. We can't win together. You know, I'm going to be number one and woe onto everyone else. You can all stay there.
You better find your own way.
Basically. And it's just like, I know it's because of slavery, but it's almost like you want to say to yourself, okay, how much longer are we going to, it's been passed on from generation to generation to generation to generation. And even when, you know, you have us where we want to teach, like you teach Trayanne, listen, we're all on the same team. There is no, we're all in this together. We're here to help Trey. Trey's here to help us. But Trey hears that and knows that, but then her other friend has something completely different. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm helping you, but you don't want to help me. Like, there's so much confusion amongst our people. And it's just like, when does it finally even out? I don't know if it will.
And it's crazy because we've said it quite a few times on this show, where we'll say something and we stop for a moment and say, we understand that we're speaking from a place of privilege.
Right.
You're
right. Yes,
and
we are. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, right. And we do that quite often. And I think, you know, there is this idea, because again, you know, I recently did a podcast. I was recently on the Black Eskimo podcast, and I talked about, you know, growing up in Jamaica. And, you know, growing up in Jamaica, it wasn't racist, but it was definitely classist. And there was some classism even tied to colorism, right? Because the light-skinned girls versus darker skins and all of these different things. But I think often, and, you know, ended up having a conversation with someone where I kind of was like, you need to check your privilege just for a hot minute, because it's so easy to go through life like this. But guess what? If you go through life like this, you don't get to see everything else. Imagine driving like this. You can't drive like this, right? This is why they do a peripheral vision check, right? When you are going to become driving, because you cannot go through life like that. And I think often a lot of people, when they get to that place that they consider that they've made it, or a place of success or a place of privilege, they often forget where they came from, and the fact that their experiences in their life currently isn't that of other people. And so it's so very quick to judge. And, you know, we'll give an example. Carcillo, you had sent me the interview with Kanye and Nick Cannon.
Yes.
And so, I thought it was an interesting interview, and I could see where Kanye was coming from. But for the audience, essentially Kanye was speaking about the fact that abortion is a problem within the Black community. And then he was talking about Planned Parenthood and how Planned Parenthood has disproportionately put themselves in Black communities. And he went on about basically like, it is the death of our community, right? And, I think there was a moment where I was like, Kanye, check your privilege for a second. Because there are a ton of unwanted Black babies out there who are on the streets, in crime, dealing drugs, being abused, all of these different things because their parents didn't either have access to an abortion,
right,
or their parents forced them to not have an abortion, whatever the reasons. Like, abortion became not an option. But now there's these unwanted Black babies who are mentally, emotionally, physically, all of these things not well because there was no option. You can speak from your throne because you can afford for kids, right? You can afford for kids. But there are people who can't afford one. Right. And for whatever reason, and I'm not going to discount that we have responsibilities in order to make sure that, again, we are, secure. But again, that's even still speaking from a place of privilege. There are people who do not have access to proper health care, and so they can't get the birth control pills, or they can't get the morning after pill, or they can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's this idea that, we sit on this throne and we look down on others and say, well, I did it, so you should do it too. And there isn't an understanding that, the place that I'm speaking from, not everybody gets to be here.
That's it. That's it. Exactly so.
That's it. And I think, for all of us, and this is the thing, when we talk about privilege, people immediately run to white privilege, but there's definitely, privilege within the Black community.
Absolutely.
I would say, like we all said, we do consider ourselves privileged in the fact that, if I need healthcare, it's not even a 5-minute drive away from my doctor I've had since I was a child. Like, and even in that's a privilege. The idea that, we live in the neighborhoods we live in, it's a privilege. The roles that we've been able to have, the idea that we were the only Black women at the companies we worked at was also
privilege.
A privilege. It wasn't fun, but it was also a privilege.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
Because that also meant that we got insurance and we had good health insurance.
Yeah.
And, we could afford drugs and things like that. But I think that, when we talk about, like, so it was Kanye and Nick Cannon, which are two people that aren't really loved right now by the community. And again, yes, they are very rich. Like, Nick Cannon had like 6 weddings with Mariah Carey. We know that they can afford the children that they've had. So they can say really, truly whatever they want. But what I think is very interesting is that, they talked about it, but how do we, take that conversation? You have privilege, you have the privilege, Kanye and Nick Cannon. You can do something about it. Well, you can maybe go to some, some Black advocates, some, people within the community that are working with women and men in Planned Parenthood and say, hey, I'm rich, but I want to know how I can help my people so that they can properly use the resources that we have here. Whether that be abortion, whether that be, hey, they need a counselor, they need someone that can help them through this process of carrying a baby and delivering it and raising it. Like, what are they doing with their privilege? And I think that's a big thing too. It's like, okay, you have your privilege, we have our privilege.
Right.
And I ask myself every day, what can I do today as a Black woman that has been able to, get a bachelor of journalism? What can I do as a Black woman that's been able to work at huge, gigantic companies and work for some amazing companies and amazing people? What can I do with that to benefit the people that look like me?
The cool things that we have this show. That's
right.
Great benefit.
Right. So it's like, what can I do now with this privilege that I have? Because I know that we put a lot of emphasis on, white privilege. And I'm here for that. However, at the end of the day, we're a community and we've got to settle things in our way too. We got to work things out within our own, you know, it's like when you have a family that's dysfunctional.
Right.
I can't count on the neighbor across the street to fix the problems within my house. I've got to fix that problem with my family myself.
That's it.
And regardless if we're of Afro-Caribbean, African, French, Italian, German, because Black people are everywhere.
Yep.
Right? We're everywhere. So what can we all do as a collective to say, okay, yeah, we're going to put aside the fact that you speak German, you have a Canadian accent, you have a Jamaican accent, you have an Italian accent. We're going to put those away, and we are going to work together for the full fact that we are all Black.
Yeah.
And at one point, our ancestors, everybody was coming out of the same place.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's funny because when Kanye said what he said, him and Nick Cannon, if anything, they just kind of added to the problem because they didn't really have a solution.
Right.
Like Kanye stated what he said.
Yeah.
And then they just dropped it. And then in the comments underneath, people went off on them because it's like, okay, well, like you guys were saying, no one in here is billionaires. We don't have nannies and hundreds of acres of land in Wyoming and all this stuff. No. You're talking about women who are like taking care of their kids by themselves.
Yeah.
They can't afford to get all these different things.
They don't have a husband who is bringing in.
Thank you.
You know, who isn't even bringing in $100,000 a year.
No, they don't have a boyfriend that can, give them a better place for shelter and better food and all that. Like, they're literally hanging on to a thread just to keep their own mental health together. Much more now bear a child.
Yeah.
That they were never ready for.
And my question too,
a
lot of people mentioned this in the comments of that video. And I sat and I thought about it a bit because I was like, sometimes, and I think I wrote this to you guys, I said sometimes the messenger is even more impactful than the message.
Yeah.
Because I'm almost wondering what would have happened if it was Viola Davis who was talking about it. What would have happened if it was Kerry Washington talking about it?
Versus a man.
Kanye,
Two men.
Versus a man.
An Armenian.
Versus a man. Yeah, go
ahead.
I agree. Go ahead.
And you're right, because I thought about that too. It's this idea, especially within, and when we talk about divide, there's also the Black men and Black women divide, right? Like you talk about the idea that men want to tell women what to do with our reproductive system, right?
Yeah, right.
And yes, they are part of us having a child. However, not all of them are around for the raising of the child. And I'm not talking about even being in single mother homes, even men who are in the home.
Yeah, and they're right there playing video games.
They're not
the picnic.
Thank you, right? They're not taking on the brunt of the responsibility of raising a child. So it's so easy to talk about the fact that our community is being affected by abortions. It's another thing to talk about the fact that having a child and the implications of having a child and how that can sometimes derail people's plans and the lives and so forth, and that abortion actually help them to be able to rise through the ranks or whatever the case may be, right? And so for men who don't have to bear the child, who don't have to go through having the child, who don't have to go through nurturing the child and being there for the child and being the person who worries every single day your child is out of your eyesight, like, you really should shut the fuck up.
Amen. A little louder for the people in the back. Exactly. I'm with this 1,000%.
That was my conclusion.
Real talk.
After thinking about it, Toshiba, I thought, you know what? If this message was coming from a Black female, people would have been more about, let's discuss this more. Let's unwrap this a bit more.
They were mansplaining.
But the idea that it's coming from two men, Nick Cannon married a woman that to some people think she's white passing, as talented as Mariah is, for the first, 10 years of her career, a lot of people didn't know she was biracial. They did not know her father was Black. So, the idea that we have two prominent Black figures, who are, one of them, married Mariah Carey and then left and then started dating like Amber Rose. Like his you know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're not likable right now, you know? And then you have Kanye, who even up to the other day was peeing on his own Grammy Award after he
Kanye
released.
just needs to take his medication.
You know, he's not even
not mentally well. He needs his medication.
Well, so it's like, why are we going to all sit here and sing yes, kumbaya with two people who it's like,
Well, like you were saying, they're not women. So therefore, like she said, they just need to shut up. Because they're not female, they're hella rich, they have no idea what it's like for a real woman to go through the things they go through. They don't know.
You know, Kanye is always threatening to do this, do that, leave here.
Okay, leave.
He wanted to abort his first child. So all of these little things, it's like, dude, you actually have no...
So he's contradicting what he said.
You have no actual reason to be speaking to this.
He's
regardless of the data. It's like, why aren't we going and sitting before the women of this community? Because I'm sure there's a woman that's maybe the monarch of that community where they could go and say, hey, this is what we've heard. This is what's going on. Can you fill us in as to what's happening here?
And how we can help to solve it, right? Because I think that's where the problem lies with the Black divide, right? There is this judgment. There is this looking down upon. There is all of that, but there isn't actionable things to be done or solutions that are being proposed. If you want to talk about an issue, let's talk about it. But if all you're going to talk about it, and like, you know, Telly keeps saying, mansplaining something that you really have no idea about, and then you're not going to propose any solutions, you're just going to say what you say and go, that creates a problem, because then that definitely creates divisiveness, or again, divisiveness, however you choose to pronounce that, right? That already, because again, you're saying in the comments, people were already like, what the hell are you talking about? Because you don't have a real true frame of reference, right? You are not the woman who necessarily felt she needs to have that abortion. And on top of that, sir, you just said 2 seconds in a rant in wherever the hell you were on stage that you want to abort your first child, and you guys are rich. So who are you to come and try to tell us? Yeah. Right? Again, providing the information I thought was profound, right? Like, it was the first time I truly heard it in that way. But again, when you drop it and you don't say, and this, because I feel so passionate about this, this is what I want to be able to do to help. A Black Health Alliance, right? Exactly. Let's create a Black Health Alliance. Let's make sure that people have access to condoms and birth control and the education surrounding all of that, right? Don't just give me the stats, give me some solutions and tell me what you're going to do and how you're going to make your money work, because I truly believe that it is incumbent, when you have made it, especially at that level, that you give back to the rest of us that are here.
Thank you. Because okay, you're such a billionaire. Okay, get some counselors to counsel people. Help the government to figure out plans to help women that need help in whatever decision they want to make. Then you're trying to push them into a box.
You know, and the thing is, you see it in the white community or in just the whatever community, general human community, when a celebrity sees a cause or something that has suddenly touched them or affected them, the first thing they do is look for the people that they can align with to say, hey, my name is Sean Penn. I realize that you had a huge hurricane here in Haiti. What can I do as a privileged white man to help you with these people who have been dishoused or lost everything? What can I do? Do you need money to buy boats to get through the floods? Do you need money to buy boots so you can walk through? This is what this is what white Hollywood does. And when they do that, I look at it and say, wow, that's really great of Sean, to use his white privilege to help people.
That's it. Now, Kanye, you think that Kanye would
and Nick sitting at a table talking about how all Black people do is abort their babies is not helping the community, especially when their wallets are full.
Too full.
Very overflowingly full. And I think that creates a, like, them and us, right?
Yes.
It's them, they've got money, like,
Yeah,
and I just said it, like, fuck up, right? Like, shut up. Like, I don't want to hear you speak about something unless you're going to give me effective solutions. And even just to bring it to just even our level of privilege. And Karsi, you said it best. We are, we recognize our privilege, just even living in Canada, having access to free healthcare, having access to sit at tables and be in places that a lot of people that in different parts of the world or even within our own city haven't had the privilege to do. And so acknowledging that privilege is important. And I was recently in a conversation with someone, and again, I thought it was so interesting because you sometimes step back, and I'm guilty of it. Again, this is why we'll say on the show, hold on, let's check our privilege for a second. But I recognize how many people don't do that. And so in this conversation, the person was speaking about Jamaica in particular, and how often, women in Jamaica kind of basically go crazy over, men who will come from the States and give them money and what they're willing to do for that money that this person is giving them. And I said, okay, a little judgmental. First and foremost, the woman can do whatever the hell she chooses and wants to do. And if she wants to get paid for it, good on her. But I said, secondly, and most importantly, you are speaking from such a place of privilege because that whatever X amount of dollars it could be, let's call it $1,000 US. That $1,000 US could make a difference for that entire family. It could make a difference with her being able to pay for her child's school. It could make a difference between the family eating for a month or a year or whatever, right? Okay. That money that she's getting from this gentleman, whatever it is that she has to do for it, God help her own soul, and that's for her to worry about, not us. But it's so easy for you to sit as a foreigner who's grown up as a foreigner, despite the fact that you have connections to Jamaica, because I have plenty of connections back home, but I'm still in there as a foreigner, and I've still been afforded certain privilege by being a foreigner. So for me to cast my eyes on someone else and say, you should not because whatever, as opposed to, I wonder what we can do within the society to ensure that women do not have to do that. So women do not have to feel like this is what they need to do in order to get the money. What can we do to change the system? It was very much like, isn't this woman worried about her soul? I said, you know what? If it's between hunger and her soul, she'll worry about her soul later.
Listen. And this is going to sound really dry and pretty controversial to a lot of people, but the Lord provides in every way.
And you dropping that man with $1,000 in her lap was providing.
Didn't Kanye, remember Jesus Walks? Remember the lyrics to that? So the hustlers, gangsters, so-and-so, Jesus walks with them? Does he not provide?
All of that.
Archive Kanye is actually
Archive Kanye.
Bangers.
Speaking of Kanye, God provides. Listen, there's a lot of people that may disagree, and to each, like you said, that's between her and God. They can figure that out. At that moment, this woman has to provide for her family some way, somehow. Bottom line, I see nothing wrong with it.
I really do.
I don't see anything wrong with it.
I think more than ever now,
nothing wrong.
We all have to take those blinders off. Not everyone is blessed in the same way.
Exactly.
And we have to look all around us and say, okay, why am I here? Why am I in this space? The only reason why I'm in this space is because, of timing. My parents came at the right time. Trudeau Sr. was in power. He was giving everyone a free fridge and a stove. If you bought a home, houses back then were only $40,000. It
was a different world.
It was a different world.
Yeah.
So their timing was so good. So they could build their own sort of wealth. They could buy their home within 2 years of being in a country where they've never seen snow, and they were working through snow. Things were cheap. Opportunities. The world was more open to opportunities for young people. It was very different, even though, yes, my parents were like, you had to walk literally for 2 hours to maybe find the other Black person that lived in the neighborhood. But, it was still very open to opportunity. If you were, willing to work through the, I hate to use the word struggles. I'm trying not to use these kind of words anymore. But, work through the process, of something. And the only reason why you know, we've been able to have these privileges is because of their timing. So God's divine timing was really the reason why, you know, then we were born at the time of, you know, 1980s, 1990s, right? You know, before any recession, when the economy was doing great.
Yeah, the 80s was killing it.
People were just throwing money around and buying mink coats because they could afford it, because it was a boom. There was a business economical boom.
Yep.
People were having a good time. But then, you know, you look at it and it's like, look at the families that come to Canada now, today. It's not the same country. They come now and they can't even find housing.
Yeah, the government becomes very tight.
Yeah, you know, the government
is very tight. They're not
as giving. So hard to get your documents to work.
Yep.
So, you know, you'll find that you'll see many people on the street, you know, begging for money because they actually have no way of taking care of themselves because of the way how the system, like what the system has become. And when you think of it in that way, you do say, oh, yeah, okay, I shouldn't be talking about, you know, the sex trade the way that I do. You know, when I was in school, I did my huge paper on prostitution.
Oh.
And and it was very interesting. I interviewed Johns. I went to a rehabilitation center for Johns. Spoke to some women that were in jail due to the fact that they were prostitutes. And it was very, very eye-opening. And I think that's when I became my own type of feminist. Say my own type because maybe my feminism doesn't match someone else's type of feminism.
Great.
But, you know, that's when I decided to say, you know, life is not served
on a golden platter.
On a golden platter.
It's not
to everyone. And some people have to struggle. Some people are getting beat with, like, you know, some people are going through it just so they can give their kid a bottle at the end of the night.
Okay.
And, you know, going through that experience, I was like, wow, what can I do throughout my life to help women? Whether that be a mentor at my workplace, you know, be the girl that goes in the bathroom after I see a friend crying, run in there after them and encourage them. You know, all of these little things. It doesn't have to be big things.
Little things, you know, equals a big thing eventually.
You know, you don't have to, you know, we're not all going to get to the platform of Kamala Harris or Michelle Obama, but we can be our own versions of that sort of thing in our own houses. Your sister, your mom, you know, like, you can empower women every day. You go to the store and, you know, let's say the server comes and the server is a woman and you say to her, you know what, have the best day. Thank you so much. And leave her a decent tip. That is empowering for her. So checking the privilege is the number one. And the funny thing is we're asking white people to do it, but we're not asking each other to do it. And that's why it's funny. We want to be treated equal,
but we're not treating each other equally.
Equally.
How can we get equality if we don't even want it in our own community? Okay. But we want other races to treat us equal.
Yeah, like, come on, guys. Equality starts at home.
It's very interesting.
And that's the part, right? Because there is, you know, there's something to be said about when we can really come together and rally together. There is clearly power in numbers. But as a Black person, I can tell you, a Black person's voice and presence is so very powerful. I've seen when we want to make change and we band together how that change can happen. And so this idea of sitting in our own worlds, judging those who look like us without actually trying to understand the circumstances of their life, right? Not because Toshiba would do it this way means it's the right way.
That's it.
Right? And so for me to sit on my high horse and say, well, Carcia and Tali, I wouldn't do it that way. I don't know why you guys are doing it that way, because that's not even the right way to do it. You should be doing it this way. Because that's why, you know, I've gotten here because I've done it that way.
Right.
Like, you guys are looking at me like that. It's like, what the hell? Like, that is not, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think, you know, we need to, communication has been an issue within our community. And we look at,
girl.
if we want to talk about the male-female relationship, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest struggles with the Black men and Black women is how we communicate with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Communication is such a big, important thing, but people don't often teach it. And if we go back to some of our parenting, you were seen but never heard.
Yep.
Right? That was the belief in a lot of households. You can be seen but never heard. And so communication wasn't one of those things. Parents were just trying to raise their kids to be, productive members of society, but they weren't teaching them to communicate. And then that spills over into relationships and professional lives. And that is a problem, because you need to be able to effectively communicate in order to actually make it up the ranks. So even teaching someone how to communicate, right? Teaching someone effective communication skills, because again, in order to get to where you are, if you're up here, the person down here needs to understand how to present themselves in writing and how to present themselves orally. And there's a skill set around that. So I feel it is my responsibility to say to someone, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, if you were in front of someone, you were pitching yourself, tell me what you would say. Right. And not turning around and saying, well, that's wrong, don't say that. Proposing a different way and say, okay, here is what I'm receiving. And if I'm receiving this, imagine if I was here to give you money. How may you say that differently? Let me give you some suggestions. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but maybe if you said it maybe in this way, align it in this way, then that, now try it. How different is that, right? Because I've been in the rooms that they want to be in, to some extent, and they'll want to be in higher room. So I feel like it is a responsibility of mine, not to bring them down, but to help them see, because again, their exposure is not my exposure.
That's it.
Simple.
Exactly.
I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think it's rocket science, right?
It's not, and that's the sad part. Like,
it's not rocket science.
But the thing with our people, you know how it goes. We love to keep secret. We don't want to talk. We don't want to communicate. We just want to keep everything to ourselves, because we feel like, I don't know what we feel like, but for some reason we were all raised to keep secret and to not say anything. And as you guys said before, it bleeds into your adult life. And now, even when you want to ask for help from anybody, Black, white, Indian, Chinese, you won't even ask, because you were just told when you were younger to be seen and not to be heard. So you just shut up and you sit there and not say one thing.
Yeah, our culture is actually, and I'm sure if I went to every single, Black culture, Black, Black nationality, we would find a version of, you're too force ripe.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
That means you're too young to be knowing something, or So, when I was a little kid, when you were a little kid, and let's say you were 6 years old and you go ask your mom, well, Mom, why do men have different parts than women? You're gonna get, you're too force right. Go sit down.
Go play with Dolly, baby.
Go play with your doll. Go play with your Dolly, then.
We all grew up in Caribbean, Jamaican, specifically, homes.
Go pray.
So, go pray. Jesus, go read your Bible.
Go read right? Go sing a Sunday school song.
Right. I'm sending you to Sunday school tomorrow because you're asking about men's
big
parts.
Woman,
big man, you think you have big woman.
Okay.
So, because of this, we are actually, it's insewed in our minds to think that we're shy. And we go through life saying, oh, I'm shy. So we don't know how to make friends properly.
That's it.
We don't know how to even network. So you're a grown woman and you're in the room with people that can help you to get that next step, get that money for, that business grant, do all those things. It's still in here that I'm shy.
You're shy.
And no one wants to hear me talk. So I'm just not going to say anything. And when you're doing that, this is why, growing up, how many Black kids did I ever see on those Disney TV shows?
Not very many.
Because the culture just always taught, well, why are you going on Bright? Why are you up here acting like you're big and grown?
That's it. Point blank. And that's the part that's kind of sad, because like Sheba was saying, to give them suggestions on how to do good in their business, when you ask them, most likely we'll just sit there and be like, oh, I don't know.
They
won't even we won't even open our mouths to say well, you know what, actually, Sheba, this is what I need help in. Because of our childhood, we were beaten down to say, no, don't say anything, don't ask for nothing. Just sit there.
It doesn't matter how you feel. You know, like kids now, you know, they're living in sort of the glamour of, you know, mindfulness, and you know, parents are meditating now. Like, we're not the baby boomers. The baby boomers, I love you, baby boomers. You raised us all. We love you. However, when it comes to the millennial and the Gen Z generations, they are benefiting from the fact that we are aware that we need to, that we need to ask, how am I really feeling today?
Yep, just now. They have mental wellness days and stuff like that. Nobody used to have it before.
Right. And it's okay to be angry. Are you angry? Okay. Why are you angry? What happened? Back in the day, ain't nobody asking me how I was doing.
If you were angry, if they saw your face, you better smile.
Right. Fix your face.
1 inch of anger on your face.
Fix your face. Fix your face. That would be the thing. Fix your face.
Yeah,
right?
Fix your face.
Fix your face. Go on a screw face.
Yeah, who are you going to with that face? So, you know, it does truly start from home. And that communication, as I say, the strategy you have in life is the same strategy you use when you shop. It's the same strategy when you're in a relationship, you fall in love. The same strategy you use there is the same strategy you use to meet people, to buy a house, to do everything you do is based upon that strategy of how you communicate. So if your strategy to communicate is already stagnant and, you know, dense, that's how it's going to be for everything you do in your life.
That's scary.
But I truly believe, you know what, like, you know, you talked about mindfulness. One can change, right? And I think there's so much.
It's just a behavior. It's just behavior. Behaviors can change. Easy.
You can learn and unlearn, right? And I think sometimes within our community, there's this idea that you can learn, but you shouldn't unlearn, and change is bad. And I think that, no, it's like, change is bad, change, who wants change? And it's like, change is the one constant in life. And you can change your perspective. Like, I don't agree with everybody's perspective, and I don't expect that everybody's going to agree with mine, but however, you should be able to open to hearing someone else's perspective. And the reason is it allows you to grow, because again, their perspective is based on their mapping. You know, Garcia talks about it, right? You get mapping, you know, by the time you're 5 years old, your life has been mapped in a certain way, and then you continue, and that mapping is there. And so being able to hear from somebody else's perspective, whether I agree with it or not, that's not important. What is important is I'm able to listen, and I'm able to learn from it. And I think as a community, we need to start listening and learning. Stop talking so much, but listen and learn from each other. I had to say that to someone the other day. I'm like, weren't you trained to listen? Like, listen. Like, there's notable pauses in someone's like voice when they stop talking, right? Like, so just listen, and then you will get to, because again, a lot of the times we are so quick, and I think it's probably from childhood, right? It's like, you know, waiting, you know, like waiting to jump into a conversation, and so we listen to respond, and we don't listen to understand.
That's it. And
it's so important.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, that there's power in when you just listen.
Oh, girl.
There's power in listening. People think it's like a form of weakness, but actually it's not. Nothing is wrong. But like you were saying, Sheba, I think it's true. Everyone wants to be heard so bad to seem like they know everything. And when we've all been in boardrooms where I'm sure you guys will just sit there, like myself. I'll sit and I'll watch my CEO go head to head with my listings manager, and the both of them are just going and going for a full solid hour. And I'm here watching them. And in my mind, I'm like, so with them both talking about their ideas, how great their ideas are, when was one of them going to shut up to actually listen
to everybody else?
So we just all sat there with our own ideas, just watching them argue it out over who is going to finish first when they're talking, or who's going to end the convo first. It was ridiculous. So these meetings would end up being pointless because no one's listening, except for us saying listening to two people talk at the same time, which was very annoying.
Right, of course. Like, that is not That
it's
is
not productive.
And the thing is, you know, I watched this film and I've been telling everyone about it. It's called The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Oh, child.
I'm going to watch it anyway. I turned off some of my notifications when I saw your. It wasn't all girl, but I did turn off.
Oh my God, watch it, Shiva.
It's very
You're
educational.
gonna throw your phone like.
One of the things that one of the people said in the documentary.
Oh my gosh.
A woman said, you know what? This world, what we all need to do is follow people with different opinions. Be intentional. Follow, you know, if you are a full-on Democrat in the States, go out and find some Republicans to follow. You know, look at what they're writing. Digest what they're writing. See what they're writing. If you are all about CNN, go find that local station in Buffalo. Follow them, see what they're saying. You know, like, it's the idea of, you know, the reason why we don't all have our own unique ideas is because we are not allowing innovation. And innovation only comes from digesting things that you don't even want. You know, it's kind of like if you have a peanut allergy. The reason why a lot of kids have a peanut allergy is because they never got peanuts as babies.
That's it.
There you go.
So if you're not digesting things, you won't be able to tolerate it.
That's it.
You're gonna probably bring it up. The thing is that our world, we're so full of just believing everything we see. We've talked about, you know, the toilet.
Yep, the internet's a big old toilet.
You know, the cesspool
the
that
media
it
is the massa.
And the thing is that we're not looking at other opinions. We're not, you know, we're all here to listen to Kanye, but are we here to listen to Sally, who is living in, you know, in Brooklyn, in, you know, living maybe on the welfare system in a small apartment? Are we listening to her conversation?
That she's actually in the
Do we know her life? No, but she does have an Instagram account. She does have a Twitter account. Maybe we should listen to what she's saying. So I fully agree that what the world is lacking, and in our community, what we need to do, so whether you are have or have not, whether you're privileged or not privileged, we can understand each other's stories and therefore work together.
And it's funny you say that too, because once again, like we were saying before, how we want equality, but we want to accept equality amongst ourselves. It's the same thing with saying, you know, from the world, we want everyone to get uncomfortable, to get comfortable, but yet we can't get uncomfortable.
We want white people to unlearn, and then we just want to stay the same.
Like, we have to fix our own community. Like, it's just, you see, like, it's just, I feel like I'm in a the Simpsons special or something. Like, I feel like I'm in a weird film where you learn something, but you don't want to learn it.
And you're so right. I remember, you know, with my old staff at my old workplace, that was actually my saying with them. It was, I need you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Because that's when learning happens and that's when growth happens, right? If you keep doing the same thing, it's just like, you know, talking to people who work out, right? Like, if I keep doing the same workout for the next 3 years and don't change anything, thank you, nothing's going to change. So if you're digesting the same information, you're speaking with the same type of people all the time, you're actually not growing. And Garcia makes a very good point. Like, I do business development calls with several different people, and a few of them are white and actually Republican. Right? Like, I have a couple in the US, I've got a couple here. And what was so interesting is, you know, I had a meeting with a gentleman on Monday who's helping me with my business and giving me some ideas. And he was very upfront, and he said, listen, us white men, we enjoy our white privilege. We are not giving it up to none. Like, we're not giving it up. We're not, no, we like it here. It's good. It's amazing. We like it here. And he's like, you know, the business that I'm doing, which is helping companies basically tackle bias in their policies and procedures so that they're you know, their workforce isn't disengaged and so forth and so on, because bias costs you a lot of money. But anyways, so he said to me, you could try to go in the door kicking and screaming with your business, but no one's answering. No one's going to answer you, because white people, as white men, and you're going to deal with white men who are just like me, we get it. We understand our privilege. We're not giving it up. And we understand that some of us are racist, right? Or have racist views. Like, we get it. We don't want you pointing it out.
Right.
At all. We don't want to hear it from you. What we will appreciate if you come in the door, directly in the door, in a different way. And so we talked about even how to make sure that I can still get in the door and still have the change and impact the change that I want. But it was going in with a different viewpoint, right? If I only surround myself with people who look like me, think like me, I don't get that perspective.
That's it.
And I don't get to, and guess what? Getting that perspective allows me to share it with others. Allows me to share it with other Black business owners and people who want to do what I'm going to do, right? I need to hear that perspective in order to be able to help. And so again, you know what? Garcia is so right. You know, that's an interesting way to look at it. Talk to people who don't think like you. Hang around people who don't look like you. You know, do all of those things. Follow people who may not share your viewpoint, because again, you don't have to agree, but you should be open to learn.
Be open to learn. It's funny too, because a lot of people, you know, even with your friends and who you hang out with, where you live, make sure it's diverse. Don't just live in one place where there's only one race, or only be friends with one certain race. Diversify yourself. You need to learn different perspectives.
Exactly.
It's very important.
Exactly.
I agree with that 1,000%.
I definitely have my times when I'm like, yeah, I just want to, you know, get together with all my Black girlfriends, you know, and do stuff. But the reality of my life is that I do have friends that you would look at them and say, wow, she looks a lot like Taylor Swift. And she ain't nothing like me at all. But when we sit down and we have conversations,
that's it.
She's coming from the world of a white woman. I'm coming from the world as a Black woman. And when I sit down and she's like, I heard about George Floyd. How are you? How do you feel about it? She wants to know how I feel about it.
Right.
She wants to know how I feel about the entire situation. And then I say, how do you feel about it being someone that is on the outside? I mean, that cop that did what he did looks like your dad.
Right.
Looks like your brother. How do you feel about it? And we can have a full-on normal conversation, throw in some jokes here and there without battling each other or feeling that we're fighting. Why? Because this is how we are both going to be elevated as human beings.
That's how you're going to learn.
That is how you're going to learn.
That's it.
Life is boring if you're just listening to one type of music, as I always say. The best musicians listen to everything, different music. Yeah. They're not just listening to one artist. They're not here just listening to one sound or one type of sound. They are out here listening to everything. That's why they are good artists. That's why they can keep on bringing out hits, because they're doing the work.
To diversify.
And we all have to do the work. We have to diversify. And if that means being intentional, like literally going out there and saying, who is a white person that I can talk to today? Who's an indigenous person that I can speak to today? Oh, is that an East Indian lady? I wonder if she wants to be friends. Like I'm literally saying, be intentional with your network and look for different faces, different cultures.
It's important.
And that allows for growth within the community. And when you get that information, as I said earlier, now that I have information that's directly kind of from the source of how to make sure that I can be a success, I share that information. I don't hold on to that information by myself. So if Garcia or Kelly were to call me and they're going through the same situation, trying to open the same doors that I've opened, I don't just shut my mouth and go, oh, girl, good luck with that.
But that's the norm. Sadly, that is the norm in our community.
That is what we face.
We have to share. We give them step by step. We say, here is the advice that was given to me. And again, it may not work for you, but I'm going to share it. Because, you know, if I have a 10-point thing, maybe 2 work for you, but those 2 were really good for you. And then you can go and share it with someone else, because I'm a socialist by nature, and I believe it is incumbent on all of us to make sure that our fellow men can make it and is okay in the world. And I get we live in a capitalist society that the dollar really matters. And again, if you have yours, you want to hold on to it and let people pry out your cold dead hands. But what use does that do when you think about yourself and you think about your legacy? Were you really a good person? What did you do to help others?
And information is free.
Well, they say success without
helping someone.
someone
Bob Marley.
Yes. it's a waste. Like so what did you do?
What was your life? If
what was
you
your
didn't
life?
Help anybody.
You didn't help anyone. Then why did God put you on the planet for?
Amen. Hallelujah. One shut it down. Okay, and takeaway.
My takeaway is that really focus on how you can literally infect the world.
Yes.
How can you make changes in how you view things so that other people can see and be inspired by you and also do the same thing? We are a community. We need to fix what's going on here so we can inspire others. Tully.
Love it. My takeaway is, as we talk about with our own Black privilege, we use our Black privilege to help others who may not have the same privilege as us. Let's get rid of this bucket, crabs in the bucket mentality. Let's abolish it and help one another up. It's better to win as a group than it is just to win by yourself. That's it.
Amen. What do you want your legacy to be is the question you need to ask yourself. That is my takeaway. And based on that, you've got to help people. And goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Love you.